Okay, so today we're going to discuss the new portable radios that the police department has recently acquired. There's two different versions, the APX 7000 and the APX 6000. Visually, you can tell the difference between the two radios because of the size factor. 6000 is a little bit smaller than the 7000, but the really big way to tell the difference is 7000 has a screen on the back while the 6000s do not. Comparing the two radios, they are laid out pretty much the same. The power buttons are the same, the channel buttons are the same, and the emergency buttons are the same. On both these radios, the emergency buttons are set up with the idea of officer safety in mind, where it's a silent alarm, meaning you hit the button on either of these radios, there will be no tones or no alerts, visually or audibly, that will go off on these radios to let anyone know that the alarm has been hit. The ABC selectors are a little bit different between the two radios, and when we get into depth on each radio, we'll explain the functionality on that. In terms of the body of the radio, both radios have mics on both sides. The 7000 is right there, the 6000 is right there. On the back, on the 6000, it's right there. And on the 7000, on the back, it's right there. Accessories between the two radios are interchangeable. Take it off on this one. So a 6000 battery will work on a 7000, as well as the speaker mics and the antennas. There has been a couple of questions about shorter antennas. Can we get them? Yes, you can, but I advise against it. If the smaller you make these antennas, you can cut the transmission power of the portable radio in half. These are 5-watt portables. To cut that down to 2.5 watts output, I advise against it. All right, so we're going to start with the 7000. We'll go ahead and we'll turn it on. And just kind of looking at the screen. There's two different screens on this one. The color screen there, as well as the top screen there. Start off, it will display the time if it's set, the zone, we happen to be in zone A, the channel name, and the name of the radio. In this case, this radio is called Spare 2. For the officers, it'll be your last name. On the top, same thing as well. The zone will display, we'll say Zone A. Radio name, Spare 2, and the channel, BPD. You also may have seen where it said ID, because there was a radio transmission going on. It was displaying the ID of whatever radio was on the frequency at the time. So we're going to go through the channels quickly, just kind of, a lot of them are the same from the old portables that were just retired to now, but the lineup has been changed a little bit. I know you guys have had these radios for about a month or so, so I'm sure you've thumbed through them, but we'll just kind of go through quick, and I can give you a quick explanation about what some of them are, because I know there are some questions about that. Channel 1 and Channel 16, so the beginning and end of the channel rotary knob is Bedford PD. The idea behind this is if you get into a situation where the channel knob gets accidentally changed, you know you can go to either side and you'll be able to call dispatch. So that's Channel 1. Channel 2 is Bedford Talk Around, or Bedford TA. This is if you're in a building where you can't hit the repeater, but there may be officers outside or someone coming, they'd be able to hear you call on this channel, and they could relay the message for you. Channel 3 is now called Bedford TAC 2. This is a new channel. This is a shared channel between the police and fire departments. It's an operational TAC channel, so if there's an event going on, traffic control, road race, a fire, all the units can be moved to this channel, so you're not tying up dispatch on the primary frequency, and they can go about business as usual. As of right now, dispatch can monitor this channel, but you have to call in and tell them to do so. we only have the capability of monitoring Bedford TAC 2 or the fire department's Fireground operations channel. When we complete the communication center upgrade, as well as add some other radios in, we'll be able to do multiple channels at a time, and they'll be able to monitor this channel constantly without asking them to. Bedford TAC 3 is a new channel as well. This is an encrypted channel, so anyone who has a scanner can't hear it unless you actually have a Bedford Police Portable. You won't be able to hear this. The fire department does not have access to this channel, nor do any of the mutual aid police departments. Dispatch right now does not have the capability to monitor this channel, but they will when the upgrades are done. Bedford Fire is the fire department's primary operations and dispatch channel that we use on a daily basis. Troop B, car to car, Amherst, Goffstown, Londonderry, Manchester. Manchester, because they have a completely different radio system than we do, this is what's called a patch channel. So they can actually take your voice traffic and patch it into the city system, but you have to call them on this channel for them to be able to do that. They don't always monitor this channel, so dispatch may have to call them directly and tell them that you're calling in on this channel. Merrimack, New Boston, County, the schools, emergency channel, and then the other instance of Bedford PD at the end. So we will go all the way back to the beginning, and what we'll do now is we will go to the different zone. There are multiple zones on these radios, and to get there, we hit zone, the zone we want to go to, and then select. We're now in zone B. Zone B has more of the mutual aid police departments. In addition to the police here, the local police south, which is the police department mutual aid channel, and the Bedford Highway channel are in here as well. I've also put the state fireground, which is the fire department's operations channel, in here as well. And the other couple spots are open for future use if we need to. Zone D, E, and F are the state police troops are on Zone D, and all their different operational channels: Fish and Game, Coast Guard, Civil Air Patrol, and the New Hampshire Army National Guard. Zone E, again, more of the mutual aid. There's a lot of the county sheriff's office, and the North Country is in this one. Zone F, again, more mutual aid. A couple more of the bigger towns and cities are in that zone. Zone G, again, more mutual aid. But the important thing to note in Zone G is there are a couple of channels designated for the airport. If there was ever any sort of mass event at the airport, there are 3 channels that they could end up using: EF 1, 2, and 3. So that's the potential that those could get used where we are so close to the airport. That's in Zone G. Zone H is a big bank. This is all the national interoperability channels. The idea behind these is you can go anywhere in the country, and these channels are supposed to be the same regardless of the agency, regardless of the user. In New England, I know everyone's set up the same way. Outside, I can't guarantee that, but you can pretty much go anywhere in New England and be able to talk to anyone on any one of these channels. So since we're in the H bank, I'm going to show you another functionality key to get us back to the Bedford channel. It's right here. This is the home key. Push and hold that for a second. And it's going to bring us back to Zone A, Bedford PD, Channel 1, regardless of where we are on the radio, regardless of where we are on the channel selection knob. The key lock, which is the little slide switch up here, will disable any of the keys from being pressed on the front. So coming back up top here, we have the A, B, C selection. On these radios, this is the scan on, scan off, and scan list setup. When the radio is on position A, it is going to scan. And we can confirm that by, we'll see a Z on the top display, as well as a Z there. If we go to B, we'll see the Z disappear there as well, so we know it's out of scan. If we go to C, that's our scan list setup. So the list will come up, and we can tell that a channel is on the scan list by the Z being present at the top. So on this radio, Bedford PD is on the scan list, Bedford TAC 2, Bedford TAC 3, as well as the fire department. If we wanted to add Troop B to the scan list, we'd hit select, the Z would pop up, and then we go back to A, and Troop B would now be scanning. If we wanted to take Troop B off the scan list, bring our selection down to C, and find the Troop B channel, and we would hit delete. And if we're done with the scan list, again, we go back to A or B. The mute button, we don't worry about the functionality on that. That would mute different tones, radio tones, but where we don't use tones, that's not an issue. The battery is actually a very important functionality. It will actually give us a percentage display on how much of the battery is left. If the battery capacity is less than 50%, I'd swap to your spare battery for the shift. If we look up the top, we have a battery display indicator there, as well as on the top, so when it's in your holster, you can quickly see what the radio is doing. So that's pretty much it, functionality-wise, with the 7000s. Push to talk, backlight, it's also a backlight, and this functionality is pretty much disabled on this radio. All right, so we'll now take a look at the 6000. On the 6000s, I'm just going to take the antenna off so we can see a little bit easier here. On the 6000s, channels are set up identical to the 7000s. Channel 1 and 16 being BPD, and then everything else is the same from there. The 6000s are pretty much assigned to administration, the detectives, the ACO, and dispatch, where the 7000s are primary for the officers. I should have said that in the beginning. Emergency button's the same, channel selection's the same. A couple of things that are different is the scan functionality is set from the slide switch right here.
Scan on, scan off.
So the scan list is either on or off. There is no field changing the scan list on these radios, unlike the 7000s. If someone who has a 6000 wants something changed on their scan list, just let me know and I can gladly make those changes for you. So the A, B, and C selection on these radios are how we change the zones. On the 7000s, we had multiple zones. On the 6000s, we only have a limited number. There's only 6 zones. So zone A is position A, zone B is position B, zone D is position C, which is different. And then to get to the next 3 sets of zones, the bottom switch here is called the second function. So if we hit that, we are now into the next set of zones. So A becomes zone F, G is under position B, and zone H, the interoperability zone, is under position C. To switch back, same thing, we hit the second function key, and we're back at zone A. I'll show you guys that again. So second function key will change the zones to the next set. If we want to go back, second function key, we're back to the first 3 zones. Screw the antenna back on. Functionality-wise, the 6000s are just a little bit smaller, but it's the same, pretty much the same radio as the 7000s underneath. So that's pretty much it on the two different radios. Very good radios. There are a couple of quirks that we do know about with the battery chirp not going on. We are working with Motorola on that, as well as the scan isn't always functioning if you're on a channel outside of the Bedford channel. There will be a software update in the future that we'll put on the radios, and that will resolve both of them. If you have any questions or any concerns about the radios, just let me know and I'll be glad to address them. All right, thank you.